Thank you everyone for coming back.
I was wondering what was going on.
Yeah, so there was one person who just pretended to be, that person used Sabrina's account.
And
Oh,
also Tamara Cash Hour's account, because I know Tamara and she wouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so basically all of us were. So, and everyone, would you mind saying something in the chat box, or just tell me, chat box or through the screen, tell me that you are the actual person. So that then once we have everyone, we can start. Thank you so much. I am me. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. So for instance, I have Joanna already, and I have another account of Joanna here. So I don't know which one is the actual Joanna. So
goodness.
yeah, I will put these back to the
I see Joanna's, she typed in.
cool. Okay. All right. Give me some time. Hey, Joanna, the real Joanna, would you mind changing your name a little bit? Okay. Okay, I can let you in. Really. Sorry that I needed to put you out once. Are you back? Cool. Okay.
Has that happened before?
No, this is the first time. So Tamara, is this you? Is this actual you? So would you mind typing something in?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Great. Thank you so
I
much.
sure, that's definitely me. I
Good.
noticed that something weird was also going on with my screen.
Yeah, it
That,
was.
that means
Yep,
that
yep.
I should mute though now, right?
Yep, we will start pretty soon. Sorry that I'm just taking out everyone's
No, it's
like a fake account right now. So, so now Eric is back. All right.
Just add that to the list of things we didn't expect for today.
I know. So, um, so let me take care of this. Just give me a second. All right.
Thank you for your responsiveness, Maggie.
Okay. One more time. So, hi, Rowan. Would you mind typing in if you are the real person? We need to do this to make sure that everyone is using the real account. So one more. I'm reporting 3 accounts now. YouTube. Great. All right. Thank you, Rowan. So I think everyone is here now.
Should I keep going from where I left off? What do you think?
If you don't mind, if you can actually start over, that's better. Is it cool?
Sure.
Because this way we could erase the entire other
Yeah.
video and it doesn't get, so.
Okay. Take 2. We got this.
Take 2. All right.
Well, first, I would like to congratulate everybody. You are your own business.
Yep.
As artists, we are our own business. We set our own hours. Typically, we set our rates. We sell our product. We connect with our community. And part of being our business is the marketing aspect, whether we're a big group or a small group. And even if you're a single group, that still counts. I like to think about marketing as sharing your passions and your gifts with your community rather than trying to sell your product. Of course, you want to sell your product, but part of it is also building the loyalty and the connection with your community so that there's the emotional attachment to what you're actually selling. So one of the most important things to do is to find your point of difference. What makes your art unique and special? We all have something unique to share, and we just need to know what sets us apart from everybody else. So I'm going to share my story of my point of difference that you definitely haven't heard before. As a musician studying classical music, I had the conception that, you know, classical musicians only had certain interests, certain hobbies. You did this, you practiced, ate, slept, did your classes, repeat. And that never kind of fit with my interests or what I wanted to do with my artistry. And then that kind of led me into delving into new music, which was a lot of fun. I felt that there was a lot more collaboration, working with living composers, and it was just a lot more exciting to me. But again, I still felt like there was something missing from what I wanted to bring to the table to my community. So a couple years back, I was at a music festival in Wisconsin, and one of the faculty members in passing just told me, you know, you really light up when you talk about gaming. You should do that more often. And what was at the time, you know, like 14 words really like changed my concept of what I am and what I wanted to be professionally. I love gaming and I love music, and gaming plus music led me to Phoenix Down RPG, which is an ensemble that I'm the executive director of, which we do gamified music. So finding your point of difference is really important because it helps you put into words what makes you unique and special and what you are sharing. Now, when I work for other organizations such as Burnt Reeds or IAWM or Opera Carolina, I have to shift my point of view to that point of difference because gamified music isn't what IAWM is about. IAWM is more about really bringing women together, supporting women in music internationally through grants, scholarly journals, membership connection, opportunities for career advancement, sharing music, and so much more. If I put on my lens for Opera Carolina, it's about bringing families together through the connection of music and arts and developing artistry in anyone small to tall. So it's really about finding your point of difference and shifting that perspective based on which organization or which person you are marketing for. So now that you've found what sets you apart, and as you continue to think about what sets you apart, because that's not an easy question by any means, the next question is about finding your audience. And that's not an easy question either, because finding the target audience really like hones in what you're trying to accomplish and how you're trying to accomplish it. If you start with something that's, I want everyone to buy my music, that's a great gesture and a great notion, but how does that really translate into real world applications? Having a generalized concept often leads to a generalized outcome. For example, I'm really passionate about horror movies, and I'm a sucker for a good trailer that gets me pumped and wanting to go to the theater. But I've realized that if the movie is in the PG-13 demographic, I know it's more for a generalized experience, trying to bring in a wider audience, and that's not necessarily what I want to get out of the movie. So for me, using that, it's important to really hone in on what your target audience is so that you can target your marketing tactics and strategy to that particular demographic. It doesn't mean that you're excluding anyone. Anybody can buy art, anybody can participate in music, but it's important that you're really building specific connection points. So what is a target audience? It's a group of consumers characterized by behavior and specific demographics. Businesses, such as us, we all determined we're businesses, use our target audiences to influence our decision-making for marketing strategy. It helps us determine how to spend money on advertisements, how to appeal to customers, and what products or art to build next. We can also use it to define the buyer persona of a business, which is the representative overview of our ideal customer drawn from data that makes up the target audience. Some of the key important statistics to look at are the location, the age, gender, employment, and income. These areas help us understand the customer and how they make their purchase decisions. Targeting a specific audience will help your campaigns reach the correct people who will relate most to your company's message and your products. When we talk about the types of target audiences, we're talking about more ways to define who you're creating the campaign for. You can segment your audience into further groups or define them into smaller categories, such as their purchase intention. This can refer to a group of individuals looking for a specific product and wanting to collect more information about the product before doing so. Think about if you were purchasing a new laptop, a vehicle, clothing, or television. The data that they use to make these purchases can help you better direct your messaging to your audience. So translating that to our music and arts business side, does our art serve a certain function for the target audience? How can we influence that to get them to want to spend money on our artistry, on our music? Next, we think about their interests. This data is important because it's about what people are into, like hobbies. Knowing this helps us connect with our audience in a relatable way and unearth the buyer motivation and behaviors. For example, when weather is warmer and road racing season begins, customers who often enjoy road biking as a hobby are more likely and more interested in new road bikes in the spring. So again, translating that to our artistry, does our art serve an interest in our target audience? If they're interested in portraits of wildflowers, how can our music relate to that? And some things to start thinking about. Next, thinking about subcultures. This is groups of people who identify with a shared experience. An example of this would be a specific music scene or genre of entertainment. Ding ding. People define themselves by subcultures, and companies or businesses like ours can use those cultures to understand who they're reaching out to. So, does our music and art serve a particular subculture? For me, when I think about the subcultures, gaming is a definite subculture that my artistry and my music relates to. My music and artistry also relates to alternative music and alternative experiences. So now is your turn. I want to spend just a couple minutes. So grab a piece of paper, notebook, pen, and I want you to start thinking about who your target audience is for your art. Remember, we're looking at the location. Are they close to us? Is it a more national, international? How are they getting to our music? Is it in person? Are they purchasing it online? What's their age? And it can be, general, like 18 to 20, 25 to 30, the particular age range that we're looking at. Think about gender. What gender is our target audience? Employment. What do they do for a living? Where are they meeting in the community? What's their income? And what I find to be most important, though they're all important, what are they interested in? So to spend maybe a minute thinking about those things. Okay. I know that's not really a ton of time to delve into what your target audience is, but for the sake of expediency, I'm going to keep pushing forward. But always feel free to come back to this because it's something that no matter where you are in the process, things can be redefined, things can be realigned. It's always a moving target. So now we have our target audience. How can you make sure that you're actually reaching them? Because that's part of what marketing is. A big part of that is to look at your social media analytics. When are your followers most engaged with your social media channels? Is it in the morning, afternoon? Is it particular days? What content are they most drawn to and on which platform? Typically, TikTok and Instagram tends to be for a younger audience, more engaged with video and photographic content, whereas Facebook tends to have an older demographic. So it's important to start thinking about what content you're creating and which platform you're releasing it on. I'm not a big proponent of being on every single social media platform because there are so many. And as humans, we have a very limited time resource because we have to do other things like actually creating our art. So just be focused and know which platforms you're engaging with and for which purpose you are engaging with those platforms. On platforms like Facebook and Instagram, Meta actually provides you analytics to let you look at who is looking at your profile. It can show you what's working content-wise on your page, and most importantly, what's not working. What are people not engaging with? By posting content that your audience is more interested in, it'll help you gain more traction with your target market and help you beat through the meta algorithm that's out there. So if you have a Facebook page, the Facebook Insights is precisely what you need to help delve into these analytics. You can see who and from where your visitors are by accessing the People tab on your Insights dashboard. Other areas of Facebook focus that include interests and integration with other social media platforms like Instagram. The Insights report can help tell your audience's lifestyle, such as if they purchase items online, which can be really important for small independent businesses. It can also help you customize your paid advertisement to reach these particular demographics to further your research. So for example, if I was throwing a concert in February of gamified music, and I knew that my target audience was people that lived in my city of probably the 21 to 35-year-old range, and I know that most adults that are gamers tend to be male, that's my target audience, and I can set those demographics into Facebook so that my paid advertisement specifically reaches them. If I was doing a completely different concert, it would be completely different demographics. Another important piece of advice is to just engage with the social media audiences. It seems simple, but again, a lot of this, I'm just setting the foundation. Interacting with social media followers is important because they're your audience, they're your community. They're the ones that you're building loyalty with, that will be interested in what you're doing next and will help continue to support you as you build more traction. Something that you can do is you can ask your followers what they want to see. So in something like Facebook or Instagram, you can post a story and ask for a response on how you're doing, what they want to see. One thing that I like to do is post call to actions. So for example, you could post something like, send us a picture of your favorite outfit to wear with one of our new hats. So you're evoking a response and something that will get them to react to it. And you can use that to analyze the success of what happened and further refine how you will do the marketing going down the line. And then one other last piece of advice for this is to find other artists and organizations that do similar things to yourself and really take a look at what their content looks like. I remember in my junior year in high school learning that everything you see is an argument, meaning that if you see a photo, it's an argument for whatever that photo is trying to evoke. So if you go to, for sake, your competitor's website and you see an image of their upcoming concert, really analyze what they're doing in that and what kind of response that evokes in you. What colors are they using? What kind of typography are they using? Finding what they're doing and how it's responding to their audience can also help you determine if those are steps that you want to use or if maybe you want to try something completely different. Remember, it's not copying, it's market research. So we have our point of difference, we have our target audience, we're trying to connect to our target audience. Now, what in the heck do we do? Well, I say that we start building some SMART goals. Now, SMART is an acronym. It means S, specific. We want a specific, well-defined, clear, and unambiguous goal. M, we want the goal to be measurable, with specific criteria that measures your progress towards the accomplishment of the goal. A, achievable. We want it to be attainable and not impossible to achieve. Otherwise, we might not make another goal in the future. R, realistic. We want it within reach and relevant to your life purpose and your career goals. And finally, T, timely, with a clearly defined timeline, including a starting date and a target date. The purpose of this is to create urgency and propel you towards your goal. So we'll start with the specific goals. Specific goals have a greater chance of being accomplished because they're specific. So start asking yourself the 5 W's. Who is involved in the goal? What do I want to accomplish? Where is the goal to be achieved? When do I want to achieve this goal? And most important, why do I want to achieve this goal? So let's say that our goal is to have more social media followers. If we were to just say, I want more social media followers, that's not a very specific goal. So I'd like to ask the chat, how can we make it a specific goal? Oh, some good answers already. Growing by a percentage during a specified time. I feel like you're getting just a tiny bit ahead of us, Joanna. Yes, creating a specific number of followers. Those are very related to each other. So let's say that we want to increase our following by 50 people. We want 50 new accounts. That seems pretty specific. So next, we need it to be a measurable goal. There has to be a criteria to measure progress. Otherwise, you'll not be able to determine if you're on track or if you need to change course. To make a goal measurable, you have to ask how many, how much? How do I know if I've reached my goal? And what is my indicator of progress? So if we're trying to build 50 new social media followers, then we measure it by looking at how many people are following and measuring if we're getting a certain percentage new per week or based on different posts that we post. So that seems like a pretty measurable goal so far. Next, we go into an achievable goal. It has to be achievable and attainable for it to be SMART. It should feel like a challenge, but well-defined enough that you can actually achieve it. So, do you have the resources and capabilities to achieve the goal? If not, what are you missing? This could be really important if there's something that you need to achieve the goal, and then that leads you to another goal to achieve a smaller step to reach to your larger step. So say, for example, my goal was about throwing a concert in February, but I didn't have the financial component to do so. Then I know that in order to throw this concert in February, my first step is to raise the money to throw that concert. Also, have others done this goal successfully before? Well, raising social media followers by 50 seems pretty achievable. People do it almost daily. Don't count influencers. Um, but it seems pretty achievable so far, so let's keep going. What about realistic goals? A SMART goal has to be realistic in that the goal can be realistically achieved given the available resources and time. So you have to ask, is the goal realistic and within reach? Is the goal reachable given your time and resources? And are you able to commit to achieving the goal? So it's all fine and well if you want to increase your social media followers, but if you don't have time enough to engage on social media and build the content for which to build the following, this might not be a realistic goal at the time, and maybe it's better to save that goal for a different point or reevaluate. However, if you don't have a lot going on and you do have the time and resources that you can dedicate into content building and creation, then it is a very realistic goal and you can keep pushing forward. And the last key point to making a SMART goal is to have a timely goal. It has to be time bound in that it has a clearly defined start and finish date. If it's not time constrained, there will be no sense of urgency, and thereby it gives you less motivation to achieve the goal. So if we left our goal open-ended, I want to increase my social media following by 50 people, we don't have a start and end date. So theoretically, it could be achieved at any time, but we don't have the necessary motivation to really make it happen today, tomorrow, in the next month, and so on. So, does your goal have a deadline? And by when do you want to achieve the goal? And this again goes back to making sure that it's attainable. If we want to increase by 50 social media followers in the next week, well, that's a lot of work to be done. But maybe making it more attainable is saying in the next 3 months, I want to achieve 50 more followers. So it's just about making sure that you follow the SMART principles, making sure it's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And that will help really focus in on your marketing plan. And from here, I'm actually going to turn it over to my friend Eric, who will continue leading you through the path of marketing.
Awesome. Yay. Thank you, Teal. Here's a link into the chat. This goes to a handout. I'm pulling the information that I'm going to talk about with you. I'm going to just really focus on branding and what it means to have a brand as an artist. And that's pretty much all I'm going to talk about today. But this handout at the end has like 7 self-guided action steps that can help you take a step towards marketing yourself in your career. So I'm going to talk about branding. Give me a second to set up. I've got a little, do we call them PowerPoints now? Slide decks, slideshows, whatever, whichever is your preferred term, that's what I've got. All right, so here we go. All right, is that up? Is it working? Yes, wonderful, thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna jump a bit. And like I said, I'm just gonna focus on brand and then maybe do a rapid fire. Here's all the things you can do. So with brand, what I like to do is step back, and there's as many definitions of this as there are textbooks about marketing. But the way that I understand it, the way that latching onto it helped me with my career is I think of brand as my ID card. It's my unique identifier. It's the thing that, although it's an esoteric concept, it's the thing that lets people know that this is me and this is what I'm like to work with. So as I talk about brand, um, that's how I frame it. It's what makes you you and what makes your art your art. And before I go on to what I define as the four areas of an artist brand, I do just want to say that let me preface everything, all of what you're about to hear by saying that in business, whether it's marketing or spreadsheets or emails, nothing beats authenticity and authentic communication. So as I'm gonna like dump all this brand information upon you, just keep in mind that nothing beats you being yourself. That is the number one thing you can do for your business. And when it comes to marketing, it means that authentic connection is what drives marketing. And that means that you have to have an authentic desire to connect. So the fancy buzzwords, if they're not what you would actually say, then it's less authentic. And people, it's not like they can tell and critique it, but there's something about it that doesn't feel right to them subconsciously. So everything I'm about to say, just remember, keep in mind, you being yourself and you communicating authentically is the number one thing you can do for your business. So let's talk about artist brand. Yeah, there we go. All right. So in my brain, there's four components to an artist brand. It's the art itself, what we choose to share about ourselves, design elements, and what people say about our art. So whether we like it or not, I'm going to talk about each one of these things and then move on from there. Whether we like it or not, the art we create is part of our artist brand. How we make people feel through our music, that's part of our brand. So, a good way to think about that is think of a heavy metal band and then think of a classical musician. Those musics can tend to evoke different moods, and that's part of the brand. My advice for the art itself portion of this is just be aware that your music is part of your brand. Just do the music you want to do, and that's all you really need to worry about with this component. The second component, though, what we choose to share about ourselves. As we begin to get out into the community and work, there's inevitably going to be PR opportunities like radio interviews, magazine articles, blog articles. There's also just people asking us about our work. And what we choose to say about ourselves and our work is part of our brand. And if you think about it, any like super famous legendary musician, they have a persona, yes, but there's also moments of them talking about what their work means to them and what they think about themselves. And that is part of our brand. So if we are, for example, in just talking to someone and we're really hard on ourselves about how we're designing our music or presenting our music, that informs our brand. That people think, like, because of the words we chose to use, people think, oh, they're like really hard on themselves. And that is what they associate with our brand and thus our music. Now, if that's what you're going for, sweet. But I just recommend being intentional in the way you affect this component, what you choose to share about yourself. is by preparing. So writing, either in a journal or a Google Doc, writing what you would say about your art, writing what your intention is behind your art, and being prepared to talk about yourself, like in a personal way. There's a threshold of how far you're willing to go, and then there are things that are just for you and your family and your friends. And I find that reviewing this, thinking about it, and writing about what I choose to share about myself and my work is something I need to do regularly, so that when I'm in conversations, I'm able to be prepared to talk and say what I want to say. So that's component number 2, what you choose to share about yourself. That's part of your brand. Now, this third component, design elements of presenting our work, that is what most people think of when I say the word brand. That's logo, that's website colors, that's how our business cards look. So that's what everyone tends to think of, but it's actually all 4 of these components. Now, my recommendation with design elements is that if what you would say about your work is, I want to soothe people with gentle melodies, if that's what you would say about your work, then you should ensure that your design elements are in alignment with that mood. So if you're trying to soothe people with gentle melodies, to me, that means your website should have like swirly, curvy text and graphics, and perhaps like a calm blue. If what you would choose to say about your work is, my music's supposed to be bubbly and extroverted, then you want your design elements to be more angular, perhaps like a pink or a red coloration to them. So with design elements, although that's what we tend to think of first, like the McDonald's logo, that's their brand. Brand is a lot more than that. But when it comes to the design elements, you want to make sure that they're in alignment with what you would say about your work, what the intention behind your music is. And lastly, also, whether we like it or not, what people say about our art is part of our brand. Now, I'm not saying what a critic says is exactly what you should view your brand as. What I'm saying is, when you present your work, are there recurring words that people use? Do people continually say to you, your music's so relaxing? Do people continually say to you, I've never heard anything like that before? So what people are saying, not just one single person, whether they're an authority figure or not just one person, it's if there seems to be a collective consensus on your art, that's part of your brand. And what's interesting is that what they're saying is sometimes in perfect alignment with what your intentions are behind making music, and sometimes it's things that you wouldn't necessarily think about your music. And that presents a very interesting opportunity for introspection in terms of the purpose for you being a musician and your brand. So anyway, all that to say, don't freak out if one person says one thing about your music that you don't like. What we're looking for is, are there recurring words or recurring moods that people tell you your music does for them? And with that information, you can then use that to shape what you choose to say about your music, and also shape those design elements. Okay, cool. So that's how I view the 4 components of an artist brand. Now let's real quick, before we go into like a Q&A situation, I want to talk about leveraging a brand, which is that's like such a business way to say it. But what it means is it's shaping the perception of what it's like to work with you, or what it's like to engage with your music. That's what leveraging your brand means. And a really good example of that is what's here on the slide. Oh, I Paint sends one message. I create swirling imagery that stirs heartstrings is a different message. And the purpose of leveraging your brand is to create succinct communications, whether they're written or verbal, that communicate your value and shape the perception of your work. So when it comes to leveraging your brand, after you've kind of assessed those 4 components and what they mean for you, my recommendation is to write a paragraph about what you think your brand is, and then take that paragraph and see if you can turn it into one single sentence. It's a very fun challenge, and you will feel yourself resisting the urge because we have so many things to say about it. And we understand that there's so much depth to what we do. But that one sentence might be what you need to get someone to engage with your music. And it has to be clear and short so they can remember what you want them to remember about your music. The elevator pitch, absolutely. Okay, so that is rapid fire mode on brand. I want to real quick just visually show you we're going to skip all that. Bye, we're not doing that today. Okay, so I just want to visually show you some of the things that are in that handout. These are things you can do, a step you can take right now as soon as this call is over to market yourself and create an opportunity for yourself, a work opportunity. You can do a brand assessment. And by the way, in the handout, there are short little instructions on how to do each of these things. So you can really think about those 4 components that we just talked about. You can create a cold call template. I've got a Google Doc, and I copy and paste that thing probably 100 times a week. And I reach out to a ton of people all the time to create work for myself. You can identify your business goals. We don't think about this as often as we should, maybe. But beyond wanting to make music, what do you want for your business? And use them as SMART goals, like Teil just showed us how to do. Or identify your artistic goals. How often do we think about what we want as an artist? And caveat on this, I'm not talking about professional achievement. I'm not talking about how much do I want to get paid, what award do I want to win. I'm talking about what artistic vision would I like to pursue. Identify research terms. There's more about that in the handout, but basically as you're surveying the landscape for opportunities, like how Teil was talking about having those hobbies or identifiers in your target audience, you can take a second to think about terms that you can use to search for resources or collaborators or clients or customers. You can also research your local area. And this is something you already know how to do probably. The thing that I'll tell you that might be different than what you're used to is actually reach out to people. So after you research, for real, go try and talk to them. And if they say no or not right now, that's okay. Oh, hey, there it is. Send that communication. So actually, if you're all set, you already know who you want to talk to and what you're going to say. Immediately after this call ends, email them and try and set up a meeting with them. That's a step you can take right now to try and advance your career. And yay! Okay, I think we're now to the question portion, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. There we go.
Thank you so much. That was fun. Thank you so much. So I think since we only have small amount of people here, we can just talk. Just not using it in the chat box. Do you have anything? Does anyone have any question? Yeah, please go ahead, Sabrina.
Thank you so much. This is really helpful. One thing that I think is really interesting and a little bit scary to me is this idea of like the elevator pitch, like wrap up what you're about in this little package. Because I kind of always feel like I'm in like a becoming process, right? Like I feel like I'm, as a composer, like constantly drifting and finding and changing. And so I'm hesitant, while I totally agree, like I should have like these codified packaged terms, I'm hesitant to kind of like box myself in while I feel like I'm always in this process. So I mean, I'm sure other people can relate, but that's just kind of like something I've thought about for a long time. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts on that would be.
Go ahead.
Personally,
Yeah.
personally, I think you describing yourself as an ever blossoming, ever developing, ever exploring composer is a pretty good elevator pitch. I think just describing yourself as constantly pursuing new musical ideas is, I think that's easy to latch onto. It's clear and it tells us about you.
And that's also something about the elevator pitch and how we define ourselves or our art, is that it is always going to change. Our art is never going to just be one thing for the space of maybe even a day. By the end of a musical work that you're composing, it might have completely shifted focus. So being able to keep things open and explore different paths, I think, is an important part of this process. Also, if you're scared of elevator pitches, I recommend going out and practicing them. I often go to networking events for other artists or even other just business people and talk about my art, and it is scary. But if you're one of the few artists in the room, they're genuinely really excited to talk to you. And part of the important part is that you need to be genuinely interested and excited to hear them as well.
Right. And I just thought that as you typed in Sabrina, you can just talk to your friends about that. And they may have some interesting lines that you can, you could never come up with. So, and this is interestingly, like I'm from Japan, and there is like a big bestseller, like long seller type of book. And it's about, for students, how to find your like calling type of job. And in the book, that the author was actually recommending, saying that then you should actually interview like 10 friends or parents or family members and ask about just a whole bunch of questions about you. So we could probably use it for about our music. Then we may find something that can be used in our elevator pitch. Yeah. So thank you. So, and Tamara, yes, please.
Hi. I think I just now got a picture and can everyone hear me? Thank you. First of all, thank you to the two presenters. It's very informative material. I was listening quite intently when I think it's Teil was talking about target audience. I'm a composer, new music composer. My work has been described by a lot of professionals who are in high places as being very eclectic. So I'm wondering how to pick. I think I know how to pick target audiences, but I'm not sure exactly of how many or who those personnel are in the target audience. If I may just give an example, last year, one of my choral pieces took second place in the American Prize. And it's a very specific piece. It's a kind of a different piece in that it calls for an SATB chorus and bird callers and a little bit of electronics. And so what I've been doing all year, I haven't taken any email steps or anything like that, but I've been collecting the names of choruses and choirs that I see that come through on my Facebook feed. And that's just like one little element that I've started, but I have a pretty sizable oeuvre, maybe of over 100 compositions. And I guess what we have to do, following that target audience model that Teil proposed, is to market, define those markets and then begin our process, which to me would be if not radically different, at least a little bit different for each of the target audiences that I might, market a piece to. So does that sound like I'm somewhat on base or totally off base, or can somebody add to that? I'd so appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, it sounds like you're already doing a lot of the research, so you're already right on base. Depending on what your pieces are about or the intent behind them, I could definitely see them each having different target audiences, perhaps different festivals for them to be presented at. Yeah, I think you're on the right track. You just have to, the hard part is starting to reach out and make those connections and build those bridges.
It's hard, but this is inspiring. Thanks.
Yeah, and I'll just really quickly add, in terms of target audience, your goal might be different. Are you, think through with those choruses, are you reaching out to them because you're wanting them to program the work? Because that's one audience, versus an audience of people you want to listen to the work. Because the people who book the presentations are one group, and then the populace that you may want to serve with your music might be a different group.
I didn't think of that. Thank you. Two very good points.
Christina?
Thanks, guys.
I have an example of what I've done, and Teal and Eric, you can just tell me if I'm on the right track, but I have an orchestra piece that I finished completing, and it was about journey with Alzheimer's. And I researched what parts of this country and globally has the greatest part of Alzheimer's and dementia. And so I sent it out to 30 orchestras, mostly mid-size and a couple large ones, orchestras in those particular parts of the world and the country. And it's like 150 words. And I said, I want to make you aware about this piece, in because this part of your part of the country or your part of the world has a higher than average incidence of it, and therefore it might connect with your audience. So what I did is I thought about my audience, or my target market is the presenters, the orchestra, but their target audience is their people who buy the tickets. And so I try to connect, what does my target, because I could go to any orchestra, but I want to target orchestras that would find it and connecting to their audience. So I haven't had much luck. I've had 2 positive feedbacks, and you know how orchestras work, like 3 years in advance. So we really like the idea. If it comes about, we hope to connect with you sometime in the future. And I haven't heard from any, but out of 30, that's not bad. So.
First, that sounds amazing. I did pick up a little bit on some hedging language that you're using where they might be interested. I would challenge you to be more definitive when you talk to them, which can feel very uncomfortable. And something more along the lines of, my work is important to your audiences because you have a higher XYZ. Part of marketing in how you're doing it, which is a brilliant example, is showing them what your art does, why it's so vital to their target audiences, and why they have to work with you. And part of that could be setting up a meeting to talk with them, which I'm sure you have, and just trying to push through the cold calls to get to more of that community building. It sounds like you're already doing a lot of that. It's just keep pushing it one step further.
And I just have 2 things to add, which are not necessarily specific to you, Christina. It's just good for everyone to know. The average conversion rate means making a sale or getting someone to do something. The average conversion rate in a digital space is 2%. That means you can you can send 100 emails and maybe get 2 of the things to happen. So the fact that you had 2 out of 30 is like mind-blowingly awesome. So kudos to you. And then, so that's just something for everyone to be aware of as you're reaching out to places. It's a low rate of actually getting a response. And then as well, this is kind of piggybacking off of what Teal was saying. Don't be afraid to follow up either, and like take control of directing the conversation. And I know it feels uncomfortable. What I do is I put calendar events, like as I send that first communication, I put on my calendar like a month from now, 3 months from now, and I space it out so I have that reminder and accountability measure on myself to continue to follow up.
Yeah, I know their planning is in March every year. So right now they're getting ready to plan two years ahead. So I might follow up to your point in February.
That's super cool. I have one question if you don't mind. It's over 1 hour, but is everyone cool? Yeah. So, I'm a composer too, and the problem I have right now is like I was known as a large jazz ensemble writer. That was like how I established my career here in New York. But then I wanted to do something new. So I created this totally different album, which is a pop song album, and I released it in Japan. So, and then I was very happy about that. But then I am going to write a book this year, and I mean next year, and it's about the self-helping book in Japanese language. So these are three totally different things, and I feel like I'm like, how do I actually connect these three dimensions of mine, or shouldn't I connect? Or that's my question. My brain is so exploded. So if you have any comments about that, I want to hear that. Both of you, Teal and Eric.
I've got some thoughts. Teal, do you want to go first or can I go? Okay, cool. So I run into the same, not same exact thing as you, Miggy, but I also have 3 major buckets that I work in.
Whoa.
That is, I'm a performer playing in a variety of styles. I'm a composer, and I'm also a career coach. So I have these 3 different things that need different approaches.
Yeah.
The thing that I would recommend you consider is you have a reason for doing all of those things. You have a purpose, like a deep down, like, this is why I do it, and this is why I want it in the world. And that's the link between all 3 of your things. So there's this version of that version of that, and of that version, but like there is a 1 sentence, a 2 sentence of here's why I do work, like period. And that's the link. And so that is the message, regardless of what kind of work you're doing. Your purpose is the message that you can use for each of those things.
You just inspired me so much. I think I'm going to use that line. I will find the line and use it like a bang and on my website. Super big fonts.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's just that it's all connected. So I don't recommend like segmenting them out. There is a why that you're doing it all, and it's all a part of your art, and all deserves to be represented.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm energized. Cool. So does anyone have any more questions? I'm so happy that it went really well. Sorry about the problem in the beginning, but yeah. So any last comment from Christina?
No, this was excellent. Thank you both very, very much. And again, some of it's not new, but some of it is hearing it again and hearing all of y'all's comments really kind of put it together. And I really, really appreciate y'all's candor today and your honesty and your thoughts. So thank you very much. And I got to go because I got another meeting.
Okay, yeah. So we are finishing this. And I just put the links in the chat box that if you are not the member already, there's a link to join IAWM. And also follow us on the upcoming webinars and event. If you follow this link, then you get the emails whenever we have another event. All right. So thank you so much again for Teal and Eric and for everyone for joining. See you very soon. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
all.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you all.
Thank you. So I'm gonna stay and talk with Sabrina about that how we run this thing.
I'm leaving. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye bye, Teal. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Megan.
Tamara, thank you. Thank you. All right. So you're muted.
Sorry. Do you want
Okay.
to stop recording?
Right. Thank you.